When Charles Whitmore, a billionaire, brings a homeless woman named Grace to a glamorous high society gala, she captivates the crowd with her intelligence, grace, and charm. But as the evening unfolds, Grace reveals a shocking truth about her past that leaves everyone stunned. The room's perception of her shifts from intrigue to awe, culminating in an emotional moment that inspires both generosity and profound respect. Her story not only changes how the guests view her, but also challenges their assumptions about success and resilience. Stay until the end to witness the powerful twist that turns this extraordinary evening into a life-changing event. But before we dive, leave a comment and let us know where you are watching from today. And if this story speaks to you, hit that subscribe button for more amazing stories. In the luxurious penthouse suite of one of New York's most prestigious hotels, billionaire entrepreneur Charles Whitmore paced the marble floor, his phone pressed to his ear. Charles, a man in his early 40s with salt and pepper hair and an impeccably tailored suit, was known for his business acumen and extravagant lifestyle. Yet tonight, he was in a bind. "James, I need a date for this gala," he barked into the phone. "And not just any date. She needs to be elegant, charming, and unforgettable." James, his loyal assistant, sighed audibly on the other end. "Sir, it's a bit late to arrange something like that. Perhaps one of your usual—" "No," Charles interrupted, his frustration boiling over. "I need someone different, someone who will make an impression. This isn't just about appearances. It's about showing the board that I'm capable of connecting with people beyond the superficial." As he ended the call, Charles poured himself a drink and stared out over the glittering city skyline. He prided himself on his ability to think outside the box, and tonight he was about to make a bold move. Hours later, Charles found himself in a part of the city he rarely visited. The streets were dimly lit, lined with makeshift shelters and the quiet hum of despair. This was not his world, but tonight he was determined to find someone who could challenge expectations. As he walked, he noticed a woman sitting on the steps of a shuttered storefront. Her clothes were worn, and her unkempt hair framed a face that spoke of both hardship and resilience. She was sketching something on a tattered notebook, her concentration unbroken even as Charles approached. "Excuse me," he said, his voice softer than usual. The woman looked up, her hazel eyes meeting his with a mixture of curiosity and caution. "Yes? My name is Charles Whitmore," he began, extending his hand. "I have a rather unusual proposition for you." She raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical. "I'm listening." "I need a date for a high society gala tonight," he explained. "I'll pay you $10,000 for your time." The woman blinked, her expression unreadable. "You want me," she said slowly, "a homeless woman, to attend a fancy gala with you?" "Yes," Charles replied, his confidence returning. "I believe you have more to offer than what meets the eye. Will you do it?" After a long pause, the woman stood and extended her hand. "My name is Grace," she said, "and for $10,000, I'll do it." Charles spared no expense preparing Grace for the event. He whisked her to an exclusive boutique where stylists worked their magic, transforming her into a vision of elegance. Her tattered clothes were replaced with a sleek black gown, and her hair, once untamed, was styled into a sophisticated updo. The stylists marveled at her natural beauty as they worked. "You've got amazing bone structure," one said, brushing blush onto her cheeks. Grace smiled faintly, unused to compliments, but appreciative of the transformation. After hours of preparation, Grace stood in front of the mirror, examining herself. "I barely recognize me," she whispered, running her fingers over the smooth silk of the gown. "You'll do more than just fit in," Charles assured her. "You'll shine." When they arrived at the gala, the opulent setting stunned Grace. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting warm light over the polished marble floors. Guests dressed in couture sipped champagne as soft classical music played in the background. The moment Charles stepped through the grand entrance with Grace on his arm, heads turned. Her grace and poise captivated the room, and whispers spread like wildfire. "Who is she?" one woman murmured to her companion. "She's exquisite," another guest said, craning her neck for a better view. Grace took it all in stride, her demeanor calm and confident. Charles couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. "You're doing great," he whispered as they made their way through the crowd. Throughout the evening, Grace mingled effortlessly with the guests. Her intelligence and wit made her a favorite at every table. She discussed art, literature, and even politics with ease, surprising everyone with her depth of knowledge. At one point, a prominent art collector approached her. "You have such a unique perspective," he said, intrigued. "Tell me, what is your background?" Grace hesitated, glancing at Charles. He gave her a reassuring nod, and she decided to answer truthfully. "I used to be an art professor," she began, her voice steady. "I taught at one of the most prestigious universities in the country. But after a series of personal tragedies, a family loss, financial struggles, I lost everything. For the past 2 years, I've been living on the streets." The room fell silent as her words sank in. The guests, who had been charmed by her all night, now looked at her with a mixture of shock and admiration. "And yet," Grace continued, "I've never stopped creating. Art has been my anchor, my way of holding on to hope." Charles watched as the room's perception of Grace shifted. What had started as curiosity turned into genuine respect. As the night progressed, the host of the gala, a prominent philanthropist, took to the stage. He thanked the attendees for their generosity before turning his attention to Grace. "One guest tonight has reminded us all of the power of resilience and the beauty of the human spirit," he said, gesturing for Grace to join him. Grace hesitated, but the room erupted into applause, encouraging her forward. She stood at the podium, her hands trembling slightly as she addressed the crowd. "Thank you for this incredible opportunity," she began. "Tonight has shown me that no matter how far we fall, there is always a way to rise again. And I hope my story inspires others to see the potential in those who may not fit society's expectations." As she finished speaking, the host made an announcement that stunned everyone. "In honor of Grace's story, I am pledging $1 million to establish art programs for underserved communities." The room erupted into cheers, and Grace's eyes filled with tears. She looked at Charles, who gave her a small, encouraging smile. She had not only captivated the room but also inspired real change. After the gala, Charles and Grace sat in the limousine, the city lights flickering past. "You were incredible tonight," Charles said. "Thank you," Grace replied, her voice filled with emotion. "But this doesn't change my reality." "Maybe it can," Charles said thoughtfully. "I'd like to help you get back on your feet, not as charity but as an investment in someone who has so much to offer." Grace looked at him, her expression softening. "I'd like that." In the weeks that followed, Charles helped Grace secure a studio space where she could create and teach. Her work quickly gained recognition, and she began rebuilding her life with renewed purpose. Years later, Grace stood at the opening of her own art gallery, surrounded by admirers and students whose lives she had touched. Charles was there too, watching proudly from the sidelines. The night they met had been the beginning of an extraordinary journey for both of them. As Grace addressed the crowd, she shared a simple but powerful message. Every person has a story worth hearing, and every life has value no matter where it begins.